Hey, good morning, folks. We are loading up another flight. Derswicki Designs recently uh, offered scenery to one of my favorite airports, Renton Municipal in Renton, Washington, home of the standard body Boeing airplanes. Standard body means there's one aisleway down the middle instead of the wide bodies, which consist of two. So the standard body Boeings are the Boeing 737 and the Boeing 757. But certainly Boeing does not own the airport. It's a municipal airport. It's a city airport, which means all sorts of pilots and all sorts of airplanes can use it. So today I thought I'd take an IFR flight over to Bremerton. Bremerton is the home of a naval shipyard. They're the rework facility. They do work with, they have submarine pens. Let's see if we go to, what I want to do here is to go to Sky Vector. So here we are in Renton Municipal, and all the Boeing airplanes always take off to the north and take off over Lake Washington, this 26-mile long lake. And once the planes depart Renton, they never return. And they only leave during fair weather. And of course, with no passengers aboard, and in many cases, not even any seats aboard, the planes are very light. So they can take off from this 5,000 foot runway. 5,300 feet is Renton's length. And then they can land over here at Boeing Field, which is also not Boeing property. It's a King County airport. And Boeing Field, King County International, BFI. They could also go up to Everett, Washington. I don't think is Everett on the sectional? Yes, there it is. This is Payne Field, Snohomish County Airport, Payne Field. This is the home of the jumbo jets. The 47, 67, 77, and 87 are all assembled here. It's this plant. That's the Boeing assembly plant. And up here in the magenta area is Naval Station Everett. This is a home base to 4 U.S. aircraft. I believe there are 4 carriers that are based there. I know the Abraham Lincoln is one of them. And the place we're going to visit today, this 26-mile long Lake Washington, is over here, Bremerton. Bremerton is the naval shipyard, and our destination is Bremerton National, which is this runway here. And notice almost parallel to it is a drag strip. And at each end of the drag strips, you'll see big yellow X's painted. Those big yellow X's are to tell pilots, hey, this is a drag strip. Please don't land your little airplane here. But that's certainly not the only place that's true. Auburn Municipal is nearby. And then over here, Norman Greer Field. This is a small little general aviation airport. And if you'll notice, right nearby, there's another drag strip, the big X's, to tell the pilots, this isn't your airport, keep looking. But all around the sectional, you'll see these magenta flags. And these magenta flags are I won't say reporting points, they are landmarks that the controller is familiar with. So if you tell the controller you're at Maplewood Golf Course or Valley Medical Center or White Water Tower, the controllers are expected to know those places because they're identified with magenta flags. So let's say you take off from Norman Greer Field and you're heading toward Renton. Lake Youngs has a magenta flag. So that's a place you would check in with the Renton Tower before you entered the Class Delta, Class D airspace. See this dotted line? That's Class D airspace. And all of it is under the heavy blue lines which are the Class Bravo airspace of Seatac Airport. So let's say you wanted to, you took off from Norman Greer Field, you got to Lake Youngs, you checked in to Renton. Renton tells you you're okay to do a touch and go a couple of times, staying well clear of Seatac Airport. Don't get beyond this heavy blue line. And then you want to go to Bremerton. So you could ask for a VFR transition. These arrows indicate corridors where VFR traffic can go back and forth through the Class Bravo airspace, and then you can access this part of across Puget Sound on this area where we're going today. So the two corridors, they have names. The VFR transition routes, they're called Seahawk Transition, which is the name of the American football team here in the area. That's the northern transition. Or the Mariner Transition, which is the southern route. So you can, what you would do, you'd fly down here to a reporting point, like you'd say, I'm at Lake Youngs, or I'm at Auburn Municipal because of the flag, or I'm at Kent, and the Seattle controller would tell you, fly the Mariner Transition, and he'd give you an assigned altitude, no higher than 2,500 feet, and you would fly this corridor right over the top of the Seatac runways. So you can imagine the big airplanes at Seatac are taking off and landing. They're taking off and landing. They're forming a V. And as they're in that V, you're flying right through the middle of that V, heading east to west or west to east across this VFR corridor. And then once you're on the other side, you often would report three tree point. It's this little point just to the west of the corridor. Report that point, and then he would release you from positive control. Oh, by the way, when you're flying these corridors, instead of flying a VFR transponder code, you'll be given a specific identifier transponder frequency. So you're over Seatac. Now you can fly over here, and you can go to any of these airports out here in Puget Sound. Well, I like Bremerton because Bremerton has an ILS. So we'll fly an ILS, and instead of flying VFR over one of the corridors, we're going to fly an IFR flight today. So let's get rid of this. Well, we are live weather, live time. I'm sorry, live weather, live traffic. We're not live time. It's 9:30 in the morning, fictional time, because right now in Washington, I'm in Minnesota. I'm in central Minnesota. So right now it's 5:50 in the morning. It's still dark out. It's 3:50 in the morning in Renton. So it's very dark out. But I've made it to be 9:30 so we can have a little daylight. Here's a look at the airport. I used to live, when I was in this area, I lived in this apartment complex on the second floor, and my balcony could overlook the end of the runway 16, and the south end of Lake Washington. I could see the Boeing factory. There's the Boeing factory right there. And if I were home, of course I wasn't home too often, but if I were home, I could watch the takeoff of every brand new 737 and 757 that was ever built. Those were good times. I'm going to get rid of this control column. Okay, let's get some power. Okay, master switch on. Oh, before I do that, I want to make sure that the parking brake is set. Fuel cutoff is cut off. Watt fuel. Make sure fuel tanks are selected to both. Mixture full rich. Throttle opened 1/4 of an inch. Okay. Now let's go to master arm. Master switch on. Beacon light on. Oh, that's a strobe. There's the beacon light on. That's to let folks around me know that action might be happening. You never know. Let's turn the fuel pump on for... Oh, that's it. Well, we turned the avionics switch on. Nothing wrong with avionics. Turn the fuel pump on for, let's say, 8 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That ought to be enough. Fuel pump off. Clear prop. Magneto right. Magneto left. Magnetos both. And start. Back to both. Bring the throttle up to 1500 RPM. Get the engine instruments in the green. Oil pressure is fine. Oil temperature is still low, but it just started, so give it a little. There, it's starting to rise, so we're in the green. We can bring the RPM down to about 1200 or 1000. 1000's good. Check the rudders, no binding, full deflection. Check the parking brake, or the toe brakes, no binding, no deflection, no binding. It's hard to do a check of the flight surfaces from in the airplane, but you can make sure the controls travel their full distance. You can't check for correct, make sure they're strung correctly, but you can check to see that there's no binding and that there's no obstructions to full deflection. How about we... Okay, so here we are in Renton. We're flying over to Bremerton, but I guarantee you the controllers are not going to let us take this flight because there's Seatac Airport. We're not using the VFR corridor. Here's Boeing Field right there. So if we flew the proposed route, we would be right in the landing approach to Boeing Field and the Seatac Airport. There's no way that's going to happen. So what will happen is we'll either take off runway 16 to the south or runway 34 to the right. We'll make left or right traffic, keeping us on the east side. This is called a non-standard pattern. If your standard pattern is when you're looking at the runway from the pilot's side, from the left side. So if you take off to the south on runway 16 and you make left turns, that's called standard traffic because you're the pilot flying. He or she can look out and see the runway directly. That's standard traffic. If we take off to the north, standard traffic, if you did standard traffic, you would make a left turn to standard traffic. But at Renton, you never make a left turn because of the proximity of Boeing Field and Seatac. All traffic stays on the eastern side. So standard traffic to the south, and then if you take off to the north, you would fly non-standard traffic. You would fly with the passenger seats having the best view to the runway. So we'll make either standard or non-standard traffic on departure, depending on what runway we have. We'll depart to the north, probably. Whoa, what just happened there? I think some hang glide. Was there a big hook in the sky? What's that big hook? I just saw a big hook come down. I don't know what that was. Anyway, so we'll probably get directions. This is downtown Seattle. We'll probably fly somewhere in the vicinity of downtown Seattle. And then once we get into this area, we'll come down for our ILS to the runway. So let's see if that happens. Let's first of all, we'll connect to air traffic control.
Renton Municipal Information Yankee, 1001 Zulu winds are light and variable. Visibility 7 miles. 800 broken. 1500 overcast. Temperature 9, dew point 8. Current altimeter is 3039er. Arriving and departing runway 16. Renton Municipal Information Yankee, 1001 Zulu winds are light and variable. Visibility 7 miles.
Well, I was wrong. We are not flying north, as I thought we might, towards Seattle. We're flying. Now remember, we're going to be under positive radar control. So it's okay to fly into Class Bravo airspace. It's okay to fly right to Seatac. Oh, here's the crane again. Whoa, there goes some type of crane. You can, as long as you're under positive radar control and being directed by control, you can fly anywhere. So you can fly restricted space, you can fly military airspace. Under control, you can fly everywhere. So we're going to Seatac, and then there's Three Tree Point right there. And then we'll come over Vashon Island. Oh, this is Vashon Island right here. And we're going to be making a procedure turn, right? Make a procedure turn, and then come into the ILS for Bremerton. So that's surprising. I did not think we would get that routing. But that's what's happening. Okay, so let's push this off to the side. Renton ground, Skyhawk 1950 Foxtrot, ready to copy.
Skyhawk 50 Foxtrot is cleared to Kilo Papa Whiskey Tango as filed. Expect departure runway 16. Maintain 4,000 feet. Departure on 119.2. Squawk 5221.
Skyhawk 50 Foxtrot is cleared to Kilo Papa Whiskey Tango as filed. Maintain 4,000 feet. Departure on 119.2. Squawk 5221.
Skyhawk 50 Foxtrot readback correct. Altimeter 3039, let us know when you're ready to taxi.
Altimeter 3039, Skyhawk 50 Foxtrot.
Five two two one on the squawk. We are in altitude reporting mode. 30 miles around Seattle, there is what's called the Mode C Veil. This magenta line right here is the Mode C Veil. And what that means is the transponder, when Seattle sends a radar signal up to your airplane, it bounces off. But if you don't have a transponder on board, all it gives is a blip. no identifying information at all. And if you have a basic transponder, one without mode C, you'll get a blip and you'll also have some identifying information about your airplane. But if your airplane is equipped with mode C, which is called altitude reporting, along with that blip, it will tell the controller your altitude. And if you're within this 30-mile veil, mode C veil, then you have to have a transponder with a altitude reporting, and we do, and that's that ALT shows that you're in altitude reporting mode right there. And you'll also get some type of, usually a blinking light like that. So in the older transponders, you would have a light out here that would blink. So 4,000 feet.
Ground American Maintenance, are we clear from 22?
Hey, American Maintenance, I'm sorry about that. You can reposition via kilo, sir.
Via kilo, thanks.
Put our vertical speed at 500. Let's get our taxi light on, our nav light on, and let's ask for a taxi clearance. Renton ground, Skyhawk, November 1950 Foxtrot. Request taxi, runway 16.
50 Foxtrot taxi to runway 16 via taxiways Alpha. Hold short runway 16.
Taxi to runway 16 via taxiways Alpha. Hold short runway 16 Skyhawk 50 Foxtrot.
Parking brake off. Cover the toe brakes. Let's give ourselves a little bit of throttle. And before we actually go to the runway, we need to go to what's called the run-up area. We need to we only have one engine, so we have to make sure that engine works. So what you want to do is usually find a windsock and point your airplane into the wind for most efficient cooling. I don't see a windsock around here. I'm going to say this is okay. Parking brake on. And we don't have a carburetor, so we don't have to worry about carb ice. So we won't do that check. If you had a carburetor, you would do a carburetor check. But what I want to do is kick up the throttle to 1500 RPM and do a magneto check. Each cylinder has got 2 spark plugs, 2 magnetos. And you want to be able to know if you're running on both of them or running on only one. So 1500 RPM, and what we'll do is we'll turn our magneto switch, the start switch, to the left side, and if we are indeed only running on one...
Street 5412 is off at November going to 35 kilo.
Blue Street 5412 ground, taxi to park, and have a good morning.
That's perfect, every morning.
53, just going to maintain...
There would be no, if they were only running on one, there would be no change, because the performance would both be on a single magneto. But if we're running on both, we should notice a 100 RPM drop. So let's look for that 100 RPM drop, and that will be normal. There it is. So you see, we went from 1500 down to 1400 when we went to only the left side. Now go back to both. Get us back up to 1500, and now check it for the right side. Left, right. And again, down to 1400. If we had a carburetor, warmer air reduces performance, and the purpose of the carburetor heat is to warm the air in the carburetor, so you would also get a 100 RPM drop with the introduction of carburetor heat. But we don't have to worry about that because our plane is fuel injected. Okay, we got our Magneto test. We have our taxi clearance. Fuel tanks are both. Let's shut off the braking, turn off the parking brake, and boogie on down to runway 16.
Skyhawk 50 Foxtrot, contact tower on 124.7. Have a good flight.
Tower on 124.7, Skyhawk 50 Foxtrot.
Yeah, the apartments I used to live in with the red roof right over there. See the balconies? I was on the second floor balcony. Great place to live. Renton Tower, Skyhawk, November 1950 Foxtrot, ready for departure, runway 16.
Skyhawk 50 Foxtrot, winds are light and variable, cleared for takeoff. Runway 16, maintain runway heading until above 1,000 feet, then turn right heading 242 to intercept course.
Cleared for takeoff. Runway 16, maintain runway heading until above 1,000 feet, then right to 242, Skyhawk 50 Foxtrot.
Nav light on, strobe light on, taxi light on, landing light on, Christmas tree mode. Every light in the house. We'll start the clock. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's not it either. I don't know what. I'm not sure what switch starts the clock up here. I'm not liking this clock. There we go. Clock has started. Let's check for traffic on final. Not that we could see any in this IMC conditions. Instrument Meteorological Conditions. When you're in IMC, you have to fly IFR. When you're in VMC, Visual Meteorological Conditions, you have the option of flying Visual Flight Rules, or VFR. Hold center line with the rudder. Gonna be some left turning tendencies. Hold runway heading.
FedEx 1151 Heavy, make 2 right turns on Echo, remain this frequency.
Okay, right turn here at Whiskey, right turn at Echo, we'll stay with you, FedEx 1151 Heavy.
Thousand feet is pattern altitude. So there's pattern altitude. And let's go ahead and turn on to course. There's Interstate 405 freeway right down there. Yeah, this is one of the occasions where I probably should not have used live weather, but it is what it is. You know, I always fly under live weather, and sometimes I get burned like this when you get nice scenery like the Renton scenery that just came out and you're really not able to enjoy it. Now we are approaching Seatac Airport. Here's Seatac Airport, and unfortunately, because of the clouds, we're not going to be able to see it. And the big boys will be landing and taking off, and you can imagine them around us. But as long as we're under positive radar control, this is perfectly legal. We're still 500 feet per minute in the climb.
Skyhawk 50 Foxtrot, contact Seattle approach on 127.1. Enjoy your morning.
Approach on 127.1 Skyhawk 50 Foxtrot.
Excellent. Do you want to the echo?
Approach Skyhawk 50 Foxtrot, climbing to 4,000 feet. Expect the ILS approach to runway 20 with the Seatac Transition Skyhawk 50 Foxtrot.
Rom.
Altimeter 3037 cleared for the ILS approach to runway 20 with the Seatac Transition Skyhawk 50 Foxtrot.
Romeo, Bravo, hold short of Tango.
Echo to Romeo, to Bravo, hold short of Tango, FedEx left 61 heavy.
3037 on the altimeter. We've been given the ILS to runway 20. So remember, it's a left turn and a procedure turn, and we'll be lined up on the runway. 111.0 is our frequency.
Sky 505, heavy traffic passing off your left, snow factor, it's something going to pass behind you.
111.1 is what we want. 111.1. Okay, we'll flip-flop that into the number 1. So now we'll be tracking the ILS. Still in the climb. And looks like we're reaching this. We'll be out of these clouds here in just a bit. That's actually nice that we're out of these clouds, because this airplane is not certified for flying in ice. We have no anti-icing capability at all. So we don't want to linger in clouds if we can avoid it. I'm mildly curious to see if our autopilot is going to hold us at 4,000 feet. And it looking like it will. Come on, baby. Be nice to me. Oh, we blew right through 4,000 feet. Oh, goodness. I actually made a bit of a mistake. I should have set up the our procedure in the Garmin, and I didn't. Of course, if it were real life, I would have. So I kind of didn't expect us to be in the clouds. I don't know what I was thinking. Oh, I was thinking brand new scenery. It'll be a beautiful day. So when we make this turn and we're flying outbound,
that was 3175, reduce speed to 230.
Speed 230, skies 3175.
Okay, I turned on the radio to identify NAV1, the ILS signal. You can hear NAV1 beeping in the background. And I also want to turn on the marker. Is our course for runway 20. So right there. I want to keep our speed up, but I want to have the RPM out of the red zone. I want it at the top of the green zone. So I pulled back on the RPM. Now that we finished the... You can keep... While you're in the climb, you can be in full power in the climb. But once we're leveled out, pull the throttle so that we're in the green. Okay, we're going to turn right on the reciprocal of runway 20. Which is what? Is it 040? What's the reciprocal? 050, right? Zero 40.
9505 Heavy, reduce speed to 210, Conic approach 126.6.
1266, back to 210, John 505.
Okay, let's start our procedure. And I know I should be timing this. It's a timed procedure turn, but I'm doing the lazy procedure turn today. The whole purpose of this turn
Descend to 3,000 feet via the Seatac Transition. Skyhawk 50 Foxtrot.
down to 3,000 feet. No more than 700 feet per minute. Ideally about 500 feet per minute. And we're looking to catch the inbound course 020.
Altimeter 3037 will call this frequency to cancel IFR when on the ground. Skyhawk 50 Foxtrot.
I know you're only hearing half of that radio traffic. Somehow we are losing air traffic control voices. And I apologize for that. I don't know why that's happening. So, let's go into... We have the radio signal. We're really close to being lined up. So let's go into approach. The aircraft will line up on that localizer, and then when we get glide slope, it should also line up on the glide slope. Now, what are we doing at 3,500 feet when we've been cleared down to 3,000 feet? Oh, there's the glide slope. You can see the glide slope just popped in. We are below the glide slope. So we'll just hold ourselves here until the glide slope captures. Of course, the controller can't clear us to land because this is an uncontrolled airport. The only thing she told us was to report when we were on the ground. So she's still watching us. And we would report on the ground, or we report a missed approach, come around again. But other than that, there is no clear to land, there is no taxi instructions. Once you're on the ground, you can switch over to CTAF, the Common Traffic Advisory Frequency, and you can talk to other traffic that might be on the ground. Of course, with these weather conditions, they're also going to be flying IFR.
American 497 is descending via the Eagle, landing on 8 out of 965.
American 497, approach, expect a visual approach to runway 8.
Runway 8, 497.
There's no need for me to really fly slow here. I want to be at the top of the white arc, the top of the flap setting, so I'm able to go to flaps 1 after we've captured the glide slope. I don't want to be barreling through the sky because I do want to have the ability to add those flaps whenever I'd like. So top of the white arc, you're not going to damage the flaps. One thing about being an IMC is that usually when you're in the clouds, the ride is actually most of the time it's smoother, so you should have less problem holding a heading or holding an altitude in the smoother air that stratus clouds provide. It's also kind of ironic that the ride is often smoother at night when there aren't so many temperature fluctuations. And in our culture, people usually fly during the daytime. Cargo flies at night, so many times cargo gets a smoother ride than people. Here comes glide slope capture. And as we capture glide slope, the plane is going to descend, so we want to cut back on the throttle to keep our airspeed in the white zone. So right now, my concentration is on attitude with the attitude indicator, airspeed with the airspeed indicator, and our position on the ILS with the #1 nav. I don't really care so much about the altimeter or the vertical speed indicator because those are moving, the needles are moving, and it's harder to control a moving needle than it is a stationary needle. So what we want to do is we want to keep the airspeed stationary at the top of the white arc, the attitude indicator rock solid stationary, the nav instrument rock solid stationary, and let the altimeter and the vertical speed indicator do what they're going to do on their own. Now once we are below this cloud bank, we can switch from the ILS into visual, and we can land visually, getting the run once we have we're below the cloud, and especially once we're in the runway environment. We have the runway environment in sight. So 1,000 feet is usually pattern altitude. And then below 1,000 feet, I can think about adding in some flaps.
Clear. Correction, I'm sorry about that. Falcon 108 Bravo Kilo, conic approach 120.4.
20.4, 1 straight Bravo Kilo.
There's the outer marker. Degree glide slope, which is standard. 2,500 is WUMOX. So there we are. An ILS is not an auto land, which means that we need the runway environment before we get to 200 feet AGL, and we also need to disengage the autopilot before we touch down so that we can do the flare and the rollout, which are not automated. There's the runway coming into sight. The alternating green and white light is the airport beacon. We're coming upon 1,000 feet. Let's go ahead and add in a notch of flaps and get the power up a little bit. Keep us in the white arc. I'm going to add in another notch of flaps. And I'm going to add in our last flaps. The airspeed is dropping, but I want to keep the power up. So there we are at 55, which is good landing speed. And at this point, I'm going to disengage the autopilot, have the environment, and we'll just fly like we normally do a visual landing. We're a little low on the PAPI. So, attitude, airspeed, there's the inner marker. Attitude, airspeed. Attitude, airspeed. Attitude, airspeed. Runways assured. Cut the throttle.
What a nice touchdown.
And 439, say speed.
439 is 225.
Seattle Center, November 1950 Foxtrot on the ground at Bremerton. Here's where I would trust my co-pilot to flip the frequency to the CTAF. Bremerton traffic, November 1950 Foxtrot, taxi to parking, Bremerton. Okay. Parking brake on. Avionics off. All these lights can come off. Pull the mixture. Pull the fuel cutoff. And magnetos to off. Thanks for joining me today, folks. Have a great day.